My 30th birthday was supposed to be unforgettable, but not like this. What began as a joyful celebration spiraled into a shocking confrontation that changed everything. My husband, Michael, made a demand so cruel, so calculated, it left me stunned. He wanted control of my $150 million company and our home. If I didn't hand them over, he threatened to walk away, divorce on the table. When I refused, his mask dropped. The man I had loved for years turned violent, but I refused to be silenced or broken. The next morning, I delivered a surprise of my own, one that left him utterly speechless. This is the story of how heartbreak led to my greatest awakening, how I reclaimed my voice, my power, and my future. My name is Emily, and I'm 30 years old. I live in Chicago, Illinois, and I work as the marketing manager for a thriving tech company, a company my late father built from nothing. After his passing, I stepped up to carry on his legacy. Today, that business is worth over $150 million. But to me, it's more than numbers. It's his spirit, his life's work, and now mine. As I sit here and reflect, it's hard not to replay that night. My 30th birthday was supposed to be a celebration of life, growth, and love. Instead, it became the moment I saw Michael for who he truly was. For weeks leading up to the party, I had poured my heart into planning every detail. I wanted it to be meaningful, honoring my father's memory while marking a milestone in my own life. I envisioned an evening full of laughter, dancing, and the people I held dear. But Michael had been acting distant for months. Once warm and attentive, he had grown cold, spending long hours away and brushing off my questions with vague excuses about stress. I knew something was off, but I silenced my instincts, hoping, foolishly, that it would pass. The day of the party, my nerves were buzzing. I checked every detail twice, flowers arranged, lights dimmed just right, music low and inviting. One by one, friends and family filled our home. Laughter echoed through the rooms, and for a fleeting moment, everything felt perfect. My best friend, Jessica, was the first to arrive. Her face lit up as she walked in. "Emily, this is breathtaking," she said, spinning slowly to take it all in. "You outdid yourself." I smiled, my heart swelling. For that brief moment, I believed the night would go exactly as I had hoped. But that illusion shattered in an instant. Standing beside my birthday cake, knife in hand, ready to make a wish, I heard Michael's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Stop this nonsense," he shouted. I turned, stunned. Before I could react, his hand struck my face. The room fell into horrified silence. Gasps filled the air, but I could barely hear them. And then, he grabbed my arms and shoved me hard to the ground. As I hit the cold floor, a sharp pain shot through me, but it was nothing compared to the pain of betrayal. In that moment, something shifted. I was no longer just the woman who had tried to save her marriage. I was no longer the daughter trying to keep her father's legacy alive while holding a crumbling home together. I was done being the victim. And what happened next? That was the beginning of a fight I never expected to win, but one I was ready for. Because I may have been knocked down that night, but I would rise stronger than ever. "Thanks, Jess. I just hope Michael likes it," I said, scanning the room, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Even with all the excitement, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He hadn't smiled once. Jessica rolled her eyes playfully. "Don't worry about him tonight. This is your party. Let's enjoy it," she said, tugging me gently toward the living room, where laughter and music filled the air. But as the evening wore on, I couldn't ignore how Michael stayed glued to his mother's side. Helen, always critical, hadn't wasted a moment before delivering her usual backhanded compliments. "Emily, dear," she said, approaching with her usual icy elegance. "The decorations are festive. Though the colors clash a little, don't you think? Something more refined would have suited the occasion." I swallowed the sting of her words and forced a polite smile. "Thanks, Helen. I was going for something cheerful." Her lips curled into a thin, unsatisfied smile before she turned and walked away, leaving a chill in her wake. Meanwhile, Michael stood across the room laughing with his sister Lisa, barely acknowledging me. The warmth we once shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by cold indifference. Eventually, the moment I had been looking forward to arrived: cake time. For just a second, my excitement bubbled back to the surface. Surrounded by friends and family, I stood at the head of the table, knife in hand, ready to make my birthday wish. But then, Emily, stop this nonsense. Michael's voice rang out, loud and sharp, cutting through the chatter. I froze, the knife hovering above the cake, the room falling into stunned silence. All eyes turned toward us. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice trembling. Michael stepped forward, his face tight with anger. You need to sign over the house and the company. I want them both. My breath caught. What? Are you out of your mind? That company is my father's legacy. It's worth millions. Exactly, he snapped. And you've never known how to handle it. You cling to it like it's some memory you can't let go of. I'm trying to free us from the past. I stared at him in disbelief. This wasn't just about control. This was betrayal at its deepest level. You're not taking anything from me, I said, my voice firm now. You don't get to erase everything my father built. That's when he snapped. Without warning, Michael's hand struck my face. A sharp, stinging sound echoed through the room. I stumbled backward, stunned, my hand covering the growing pain on my cheek. Gasps erupted around us, but Michael didn't stop. In a blind rage, he grabbed my arms and threw me to the floor. The cold tiles met my skin with a harsh slap. My heart pounded, but it wasn't fear that consumed me. It was a rush of realization. Around me, the room was frozen in horror. No one moved. Helen, standing beside her son, didn't look shocked. She didn't flinch. Instead, she gave a slight nod of approval, as if she had been waiting for this moment. And just like that, everything was clear. I wasn't just dealing with a broken marriage. I was facing a calculated attempt to take everything I held dear. But I wasn't going to stay on the ground. This was the moment I would rise. Get out of my life, Emily. I don't love you anymore. I'm going to marry someone who understands business, Michael shouted, his voice sharp and final. Those words cut deeper than the slap, deeper than anything he'd ever said to me. Tears streamed down my face as I fled upstairs, the house spinning around me, the walls closing in like a cage. I collapsed onto the bed, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe, my body trembling under the weight of betrayal and heartbreak. Moments later, a gentle knock echoed on the door. Emily? It's me, Jessica, came her soft voice. She stepped inside without waiting, rushing to my side. Oh my God, are you okay? She whispered, eyes wide with horror as she knelt beside me. I can't believe he did that. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I choked out between sobs. I thought we were happy. I really thought he loved me. Jessica gently pulled me into her arms, holding me as I cried. When she pulled back, her tone shifted, gentle but firm. Emily, this isn't okay, she said, locking eyes with me. He's been trying to control you for a long time. Tonight was just the breaking point. You need to get out. This isn't love. Her words echoed in my head. I had been pushing away the truth for so long, making excuses for his cruelty, brushing off the emotional digs disguised as jokes, shrinking myself to keep the peace. I can't just leave him, I whispered. He's my husband. I love him. But does he love you? She asked softly. Because love doesn't look like this. You deserve better, Em. So much better. Sitting there in the darkness of my bedroom, her words planted a seed deep inside me, a spark I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that builds, that fuels, that fights. I looked at myself in the mirror across the room. My eyes were puffy and red, but beneath the pain, I saw something else, strength. I'm going to figure this out, I said, barely above a whisper. But there was steel in my voice now. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I wiped my tears and sat upright. I had a company to protect, a legacy to honor, and I refused to let Michael or Helen strip that away from me. A plan started forming in my mind, quiet at first, but growing louder by the minute. I was going to fight back. I would expose the truth, reclaim my power, and take back control of my life. Little did I know, that night was just the beginning of a transformation that would reshape everything. In the days that followed, I rode a storm of emotions: heartbreak, fury, confusion, resolve. Michael's words haunted me. I don't love you anymore. I'm going to marry someone who understands business. It was like a knife to the heart, but it also lit a fire inside me. I had spent too long living in denial, clinging to a love that had long since faded. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful. Jessica came by again a few days later. We sat in my living room, surrounded by the remnants of the party, tangled streamers, deflated balloons, empty glasses. I had tried to clean, but it felt pointless. Everything reminded me of the disaster that had unfolded. "Are you okay, Emily?" she asked gently. I shook my head, eyes staring at nothing. "I don't know, Jess. I keep replaying it all over and over. I thought we had a good marriage. I thought I knew him." She reached out, squeezing my hand. "You didn't fail, Emily. You just gave your heart to the wrong person. But that doesn't mean your story ends here." She was right. It didn't end here. It was only the beginning. Sometimes the signs are right in front of us, but we choose not to see them, Jessica said softly, her tone full of compassion. "You need to figure out what you want now." "I want my life back," I said, my voice steady with resolve. "And I want to expose him for who he really is." Jessica's eyes lit with encouragement. "That's the spirit. But we need to be smart about this. You can't go after him without a plan. First, we gather evidence." So that's what I did. Over the next few days, I began observing Michael with new eyes. Every late-night call, every time he left the room to answer a message, the way he always kept his phone screen down on the table. These details had been there all along. I just hadn't wanted to believe what they meant. But now, I was done making excuses. One night, I decided to stay up and wait for him. I sat in the dimly lit living room, heart pounding in anticipation. When I heard his key in the lock, I held my breath. "Hey, you're still awake?" Michael asked as he stepped inside. His voice was casual, but his eyes flicked toward me with a flicker of hesitation. "Yeah," I said, forcing a calm smile. "Couldn't sleep." "How was work?" "It was fine," he replied, already taking off his shoes, eyes avoiding mine. The air between us was heavy with unspoken tension. "Michael, can we talk about what happened at the party?" I asked, my voice low but firm. He froze for a second, then waved me off. "Do we have to? I thought we moved on from that." "Moved on," I repeated, stunned. "You slapped me. In front of everyone we know. That's not something you just brush off like a bad conversation." He turned to face me, annoyance flashing in his expression. "You know how my mother gets. You should have just listened to her. None of that would have happened." I stared at him, disbelief rising like bile in my throat. "Are you seriously blaming me? After what you did? Maybe you should take a good look at yourself," he snapped, and with that, he stormed into the kitchen. I sat there, shaken but not surprised. The man I had once loved was gone, replaced by someone cold, calculating, and cowardly. Still, I kept pushing forward. Day by day, piece by piece, Jessica and I quietly dug deeper into Michael's life. What we found made everything painfully clear. He wasn't just emotionally abusive. He was unfaithful too. His relationship with his assistant, Mia, had crossed lines I had once convinced myself didn't exist. They were having coffee dates, long dinners, private meetings that had nothing to do with business. Then came the final confirmation. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stopped cold. My fingers trembled as I stared at the screen. A photo. Michael and Mia, seated closely at a candlelit restaurant, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. The caption read, "Date night with my favorite person. #blessed." My blood ran cold. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. He was having an affair, and I had been blind to it for far too long. "Jess, look at this," I said, holding out my phone. She leaned in, and the color drained from her face as she took in the photo of Michael and Mia, cozy and carefree at a restaurant. Her eyes flashed with fury. She took a sharp breath. "This confirms it. He's cheating on you. No more doubts." I nodded slowly, my voice calm but steady. "I'm going to confront him, but not yet. I need more evidence. He's good at spinning stories, and I won't give him the chance to twist this into something it's not." The fire inside me was no longer fueled by heartbreak. It was clarity. I was ready for a fight, but I needed to be prepared. The next day, I set up a consultation with an attorney. After combing through reviews and recommendations, I found someone known for handling complex marital and financial cases. Her name was Rachel. Sitting across from her in her sleek office, I laid it all out. "I believe my husband is cheating, and he's trying to take control of my assets. I need to know how to protect myself." Rachel listened intently, jotting down notes, her expression focused but empathetic. "You're doing the right thing by coming here early," she said. "Start documenting everything, dates, screenshots, financial statements. Anything that shows a pattern. The more you have, the stronger your case will be." Leaving her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Power. Back at home, I got to work. I gathered text threads, printed emails, and jotted down details from memory. Things that hadn't seemed important before now clicked into place. Each piece of evidence brought me closer to the truth and to my freedom. One night, I was seated at the kitchen table, deep in my notes, when I heard the front door open. Michael stepped in, surprised to see me still awake. "Working late," he said, his tone laced with sarcasm. "Just organizing a few things," I replied coolly, not looking up. He walked over slowly, his eyes narrowing. "What things?" "Personal projects," I said, casually flipping a page. He hovered beside me, suspicion etched across his face. "You've been different lately. Is there something you're not telling me?" There it was, the edge in his voice. He sensed something. I looked up and smiled, calm and controlled. "Not at all. Just enjoying a little peace and quiet. You know, after everything." He studied me for a long moment, but I didn't flinch. I could see him searching for cracks in my facade, but there were none. Not anymore. Michael didn't press the conversation further, but his gaze lingered on me for a beat too long, as if he were trying to peer into my thoughts. I stayed composed, my face unreadable, but beneath the surface, my nerves were fraying. The tension between us had thickened, an invisible thread stretched taut, ready to snap. It was only a matter of time before everything unraveled. In the days that followed, I dove headfirst into uncovering the full scope of his betrayal. With Rachel's guidance, I combed through our business accounts, scrutinizing every transaction, every transfer. And then, I found it. Michael had been siphoning money from my company. Quietly, consistently. For months, he had created a separate account under a shell name and had been funneling funds in small amounts, just enough to avoid suspicion. But I had the paper trail. The evidence was irrefutable. The realization made me physically ill, but it also ignited something fierce inside me. This wasn't just about cheating. This was theft, deception, financial abuse, and I wasn't going to let him bury it. Then came the call from Rachel. "Emily, we have enough to move forward," she said, her voice firm. "We can file for divorce and present the evidence of embezzlement. Are you ready to take this step?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I replied, steady and unshaken. "I'm ready." With a strategy in place, I arranged to confront Michael on my terms. I invited him over to the house under the guise of having a serious conversation about our future. He had no idea what was waiting for him. When he arrived, he walked in casually, expecting another passive conversation. But the moment he saw me sitting at the dining table, papers spread neatly in front of me, his demeanor shifted. He stopped in his tracks. Confusion flashed in his eyes, quickly replaced by suspicion. "What's all this?" he asked, his voice tight, eyes narrowing. I looked up, calm and resolute. "There's something you need to see." He stepped closer, glancing at the documents. "I know about the affair, Michael, and I know about the money you've been stealing from the company. I have everything: bank records, transfers, statements. You've been funneling funds into a separate account under a fake business name. You thought I wouldn't find out." His face went ghost white,